Hello, and you're very welcome to another GAA podcast. I'm John Mann, and of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgaretch.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code GAA podcast to get 15% off on Orgaretch.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. And if you're liking what you're seeing, like, subscribe on YouTube. The sport's been absolutely brilliant so far. And tonight, I am joined by former Cork All-Star Daniel Goulding, former Crossmaglen player Johnny Murtagh, and former Kilmacud Sevens participant Kevin McGarty. So I'll start off with yourself, Daniel. How are you keeping?
I'm good, but we know you got lucky this weekend anyway. You won something, so you're in bubbly form anyway. You're lifting. wearing that disgusting jersey as well, only adding to it.
I love your jersey, by the way. Where'd you get it?
I got that at Argo. The boys have been hooking me up. A couple
Right.
of them now.
Yeah. So it looks well. And the arms are looking well too, Danny. You doing much homework?
Yeah. No, the jersey actually helps with them. Puffs them out for you and all.
Brilliant stuff. Johnny, be bad. I haven't seen you in a while. How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm doing very good. Bit of bad news from Armagh, but look, we'll see how it goes. I'm not that over the moon with that, but at least me and Daniel can fit into our jerseys. So I don't know what's wrong with you two boys, but anyway, we'll keep that for later on.
I wouldn't mind seeing that belly there, Johnny, if you could put it in the camera. Kev, how are you keeping?
What belly?
Well, after that for Murtagh, I don't know how I'm keeping, but at the end of the day, thanks to the intro there, Dan Goulding All-Star, me and Johnny we played.
We're here for the crack. We're carrying the water from.
Hey, you forgot to say for Bobby Boucher yourself, the water carrier, but we'll rock on,
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, lads, absolutely. It was an exciting weekend. And Kev, I believe you had a bit of crack in Glasgow yesterday.
Glasgow green and white, apparently. So, yeah.
Happy days. Great stuff. So, yeah, lads, we're here to talk about yesterday's action, the Division 1 Division 2 finals, and obviously Saturday's action, the Division 3 and Division 4. But before we crack into it, lads, we can't go beyond without paying our tributes to the late great Red Oak Murphy from Sligo, who passed away suddenly last week. It was absolutely horrific news, and it's hard to believe the young man's gone. He was 21 years of age. He was doing a teaching degree in DCU, and we send our sincere condolences to Red Oak's family, club members and friends. It was absolutely horrific news there on Friday. And what more can you say about that, Dan?
No, you've summed it up there nicely. Look, obviously a horrendous tragedy, and a young man that was only starting off his life. And look, it's very sad for the GAA community, but obviously terrible for parents, family, friends, just people who were with him every day. Fairly rough, and look, was going to be a prodigious talent and all. And I saw a clip there of him on Twitter with the outside the boot sideline he was nearly 6 yards from the end line. It was crazy. So look, he had it all really, and had a stint in Australia and had a bright future. But look, very sad, and may he rest in peace.
What about yourself, Johnny?
Yeah, devastating news, and an up and coming talent. It's week in, week out now. It's starting to get very familiar, and you just don't know what to say about it anymore. It's tough. We went through it. I think every club goes through it, and just rally the people to rally around and try and bring the family on as best we can. And the GAA community, I have to say, has been excellent around the Murphy family. So just hope that continues. Big, strong, able fella. You could play him anywhere, midfield, forward line. Massive scoring potential. It's very, very, very sad. Amazing talent, and I hope he rests in peace.
And Kev?
Yeah, just to echo what the boy said. Look, it's very difficult for the GAA in Sligo. My sympathies to everybody down there. Obviously, as Dan's regular articulated, we've seen the clips. I watched them for DCU in the second half this year. When we caught the second half, University of Limerick in the Sigerson. Look, he looked a real prestigious talent. Didn't know the lad, but these things coming on the test us, and I think Johnny's articulated this as well. Look, if there is people out there and there is issues or whatever else, go and speak to people. That's what the GP is for, and I think that the GAA weather community, there's great people out there. I've been through difficult times myself. I'm sure the two lads have. Go and speak to people about it. Don't be proud, inner proud about it. Just go out and seek help and look. May rest in peace. It's very, very hard to but that's we have to be honest as a GAA community. There's difficult discussions to be had, but let's all help and support each other. And I think that's the biggest thing about the GAA. They're a community organisation. They're there for everybody. So go and speak to people about issues.
Well said, lads. Well said. And yeah, there's not much more you can say. And the weekend's action kind of was put into perspective, but it was great to have the outlet, get people out of the house, people meet up, and it was great to watch the games. But yeah, heartbreaking news. And there's probably not much more we could say, lads, but God rest his soul, because he was a prestigious talent. Red Oak Murphy, God be good to you. So we will touch on to Division 1, lads. The Division 1 final between Kerry and Mayo yesterday in Croke Park. It was Kerry 319, Mayo 13 points. And Johnny, this was a very, very convincing for Jack O'Connor. A very, very convincing win for Jack O'Connor's men. He'll be one happy man this week in training.
Yeah, well, I think Kerry would have targeted this here from the start. There would have been a statement of intent from Jack O'Connor's being back. I know we've chatted about it amongst ourselves, but a good bit. Pat O'Sullivan back as a Kerry chairman as well. That was another statement of content. And the message was going to be sent out loud and clear that they meant business. They were back. I don't think that a great record in Croke Park. Maybe 9 games or whatever it was, only maybe a couple of wins. So I think that they just wanted to get that monkey off the back coming in the championship. The game itself, what really much can you say other than a phenomenal display by Kerry? Maybe Mayo didn't show the hand. It's hard to say. There's a lot of space left. For me, a lot of space left in the full back line. And then the other topic where I'd like to talk to you guys about later on is, for me, I found that Paddy Clifford at centre half forward was phenomenal, and he looks every inch of a centre half forward, and one that can cause serious bother. Does a centre half back go with him, or does he stay here to watch the house? He's a massive engine, massive work rate. He's getting scores. He's cropping up everywhere. He's turning over ball. He's we had this conversation before a couple of months ago about Sean O'Shea, a phenomenal player as well at 11. Didn't suit the midfield role. So it's going to be interesting coming into the championship to see how Kerry rolled the dice here, how they move a few players around. Another player that we felt was probably spoke about here, flagged at the start of the year, was Tony Brosnan as well. He only came off the bench. Kerry has a phenomenal amount of talent there and in that forward line. So they're going to take serious watching. If somebody's having an off day, somebody else is stepping up. And that's without even getting into the Gavin Whites, the Foleys and these guys coming up the field. O'Blugla had a serious game. Adrian Spillane, or is it Adrian? Come on and kicked a great point as well. Spillane. There's so many options. It's actually frightening. And for me, to be brutally honest, I know Dan's laughing away. He just loves this, but I don't actually think. I don't honestly believe. I don't believe that Kerry get out of third gear. I really don't. I think there's so much more to come. Potentially, from Kerry. And listen, they're going to go in. They're going to be hot favourites. Can they deal with that? Can they deal with it? And more to the point, could they take the likes of a Tyrone when push comes to shove? And that's going to be the interesting one for me.
100%. And touching on that kind of, probably getting out of third or fourth gear, really, Johnny, and obviously Kerry really at their ease yesterday in Croke Park, and it was just an absolutely sublime performance. And we're probably running out of words to describe Mr. David Clifford as well, Johnny. Like how do you mark him, what do you do with him? And I know Parker Horror really tried his utmost, and we've seen the video of the bit of sledging that was going on, and Horror was trying to get into his face. But Johnny, what are we going to do with Mr. Clifford? What is any team going to do with that man? He is just a sensational talent.
Well, I had the privilege of watching him for 15 or 20 minutes in Armagh. He came on as a sub in the second half. And Aidan Farker tried the same. Right in front of me, he rubbed his nose in the ground and tried to bully Clifford a wee bit. And there's no bullying on Clifford, boys. You know, O'Mahony he put up there, he poked the bear. Yeah, you poked the bear, all right. And he turned around and delivered. So that sort of game with him isn't going to work. But in fairness, you know, the game of leaving 30 and 40 yards of space in front of him isn't going to work either. Like, you can say what you want about the defender, but for a phenomenal talent like David Clifford, and at this moment in time, he's the best footballer in Ireland. You can't give a man of that calibre that sort of room, and that's the long and the short of it. You need to be putting cover in front of him. You need to be doing your utmost to keep him off his left. Overemphasize on the left all the time. But look at he's stepping up to the mark. He's kicking on from the player we've seen as a minor, a phenomenal minor, maybe one of the best that ever came out of Kerry as a minor. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the summer ahead. You know, I do think that I don't think there's a lot in it, to be honest with you. I think the media is blowing it up to be something it isn't. But Clifford's the real deal, boys. That's the long and short of it.
What about yourself, Dan? Events that took place in Croke Park yesterday, it's kind of hard to know, and you were kind of saying off air that Mayo might have a few tricks up their sleeve yet, maybe coming into the championship, and it was a 15-point win for Kerry in the end, Dan, so it was nearly too convincing at times, and it really looked like a training match. But your take on events that took place in HQ yesterday? Yeah,
look, I definitely think Kerry are big favourites to win the All-Ireland, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion yet. I would think that when you're looking at the scores, Clifford got 1-6, and the problem being that he probably did something similar against Tyrone last year, except Tyrone stopped everyone else. So Mayo were just beaten all over the pitch yesterday. They were flat. They weren't tight at the back. Very on Mayo. Like, Mayo usually are very intense. Usually protect their full back line, but just were exposed yesterday. I know they were missing Paddy Durkin and Mullen and Henley and a couple of others. Killian O'Connor's not back. I just wonder was Mayo's focus totally on this game. I wonder how concerned Horan is that they didn't win it, whereas you could see from the off that Kerry were mad to win this game, and Jack wanted to lay down a marker for the rest of the year. But we've seen Mayo before. They rebound. They have this capacity to rebound, and I still think they'll get to the final latter stages of the championship this year. Kerry have improved an awful lot defensively as well. I think Paddy Talley, you can see the effect he's having on them. They get more men back. They're more structured. I think they saw Jason Foley seems to have solved their full back line issues, and Tyg Morley is a good holding kind of centre back when he's the two boys with all the pace next to him. Having Gavin White was a huge plus back for him. I've watched him over the last number of years. He's tormented Cork when he has been fit. So look, they've class all over the pitch. And I suppose the big questions will come for Kerry in All Ireland semi-final or final probably. I think they won't have too much trouble getting to there. But that's one of the big questions. And if the day that David Clifford's having an off day or something happens, will the rest of them step up like they did yesterday in the big stage? And that's the question for this Kerry team.
I suppose, Dan, your kind of take on maybe Kerry's kind of not really being in first or second gear and really just kind of going through the motions in Croke Park yesterday against Mayo, Dan, and obviously, you know, it probably didn't really need to. The game was probably over in, you know, the first half really. So your kind of take on that, and is there any kind of cause for concern, like, you know, Mayo's lack of kind of want in that game? Like, was that really a good test for Kerry heading into the championship, Dan?
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't say they were in second or third gear, to be honest with you. I thought they were fairly at the pitch championship pace, probably.
on where?
David Clifford there, like, you couldn't say he wasn't going full tilt. Paddy Clifford was going full tilt. Gavin White, Adrian Spillane, these fellas, they were hopping off the ground yesterday. And it's a case that Mayo weren't at the races. There was one stage there, Paddy should have had 2, if not 3 goals. He started about 5 yards behind Cohen, and by the time he passed him, he'd have gone in 10 minutes. And Mayo just weren't at the races. They weren't covering for each other. I also think as well, Mayo have a big problem with Aidan O'Shea. They don't know what they're doing with him. He doesn't know what they're doing. So look, he looks lost there. He's playing around the middle. He's sometimes going centre forward. They need to figure out if they are going to play him, what's his actual purpose, as opposed to just being around the middle of the pitch. And look, I think Jack's a shrewd operator. He'll be very pleased. He'll be pleased that Kerry turned up and put in a big performance. But he'll be under no illusion that it's July when they're going to have to really show what they're about.
100%. And Dan, obviously your take on everyone's probably talking about him. Everyone's probably sick of running out of words to describe the man, David Clifford. His performance yesterday, Dan, it was just out of this world.
Oh, it's Asher. Look, everyone's giving him the plaudits. I suppose what I see in him more this year than last year is he seems to be a bit fitter. The engine is ticking over better. Like the last couple of years, he's been on his haunches a bit very early in games, and he kind of plays in snatches. But obviously, every time he's on the ball, he's incredible. But I just thought yesterday he looked extremely fit, kind of agile. Just his athleticism was really on show yesterday, because look, Hora is a fit man, and he'd have speed too, and he couldn't get a hand on him. And I think he showed that consistently for 70 minutes yesterday. And obviously, as he gets older, the miles on the clock, like you can see, he'll get more conditioned, and if he keeps getting kind of more athletic, then look, he's only going to get better and better.
Spot on. Mr. McGurty, your thoughts on Croke Park yesterday? I know you were further afield, but you surely got watching a bit of it.
Yeah, I did. Kerry were incredibly good, but we must temper that with what was on, when it came to Mayo. I think the lads have summed it up pretty well, that Mayo were quite feeble yesterday in many ways. I think first and foremost, we have to accept James Horan got the matchups wrong. O'Hara should never have been on David Clifford for the amount of time that he was on him. I think Stephen Cohen didn't suit Paddy Clifford either. I think Dan's articulated that point, and so as Johnny really well. That we've seen something different with Kerry yesterday, where Paddy Clifford drifted out to the 40, and he was really, really good. He brought other people into play. He made us think about where he can play in. And Kerry have an abundance of riches up front. There's no doubts about it. But their issue is at the back. And yes, I would agree with the lads. Look, Tadhg Morley can read the game very, very well. Foley looks as if he's slotting in to be a decent full back. But the big issue again comes with Kerry is if Mayo were fully on tune yesterday, to me, look, I suppose it's easy saying it now, but I think Tyrone have the measure still on Kerry. And they beat them last week. Their intensity is massive. Their forwards don't like their intensity. And also when Tadhg Morley drops off his man, the centre half forward, which was last week, was Sludden, knocked over 2 points. And he can, in a way, he can dictate and control the game. So I still think Kerry have issues to answer. Yesterday was maybe a false narrative on the season, because maybe, Mayo just, I don't know what Mayo were thinking yesterday, if I'm honest with you. I think Dan raises another point that's really important to talk about, and I spoke about this last year with you, and I spoke about it again this year with you. The Aidan O'Shea conundrum is massive. And for me, and I'll say this again for the third time, he is only now an impact player. He can start. Teams will look at, full forward, kicking a long ball in. What are we going to do? We're going to fire Tadhg Morley back behind the ball. We're going to put Foley on him. He's physically able for him. And they're going to do that. So, option 2, can we play him at midfield? Can we play him at centre half forward? He doesn't have maybe the engine for that anymore. So, what you got to do is a bit like Tyrone used Cal McShane last year.
Cabinet.
Yeah, you've got to use him as an impact, and you've got to understand that he's not able for that anymore. Yes, Mayo were missing players yesterday, and that's fine. But look, they just didn't look up for the game at all. Their matchups were wrong. Kerry were ruthless up front. I really like the way Kerry were yesterday, ruthless up front. But I'll caveat with this. This is the same Kerry team we've seen for the last 2, 3, 4 years. Not many personnel changes. Bar maybe Tony Brosnan's the only one maybe in the last 2, 3 years just come in to add into the squad. And they've let us down time after time after time when that intensity in the tackle comes in, when the teams pressurize them. And maybe Dan and Johnny have a point. Maybe Mayo yesterday were just shadow boxing. Maybe they were. But, you know, Kerry looked good, they looked slick yesterday, the passing was great when they kicked past the ball. And look, nobody's doubting. Kerry could have had 7 goals yesterday. They could have. That's the fact of the matter here. But, you know, when do we judge the real Kerry? When do we judge the real David Clifford? We judge that when it comes, you know, to winning All Irelands inside Croke Park in July time this year. And I think yesterday was maybe a bit of a false narrative.
And Kev, Joe Brolly tweeted yesterday, Carumba, David Clifford, Holy Mother of Bomber Liston, Mars Fitz and Mickey Sheehy rolled into one.
In many ways, I texted in the WhatsApp group earlier and I said that David Clifford could be one of the best 3-4 players ever to play in the GAA. However, he needs to start now. And okay, he's only one player inside a team of incredible players, by the way, that haven't won anything of note as of yet, of no All Irelands. I mean, Dan Goulden sitting here with an All Ireland medal. David Clifford hasn't got one of them. Simple as that. So to get on the pantheon of greats, you need to consistently perform what he's doing. You need to consistently win, and you need to be consistent. I think this year, I was quite critical of him last year, if you remember, with yourself, John. I didn't pick him in my All-Star team last year. I thought Polly Clifford was a better player. I thought that David Clifford didn't warrant an All-Star last year. And it was quite a controversial decision, but the guy's got talent hanging out of him. The big matter for him now is, when it comes to Croke Park, is getting over the line. And I reckon this kid could be one of the greatest footballers ever to play our game. Ever. But it's always that thing, you know, Canavan almost dragged that Tyrone team in 95 to All Ireland. He eventually dragged 2 Tyrone teams he inspired and dragged 2 Tyrone teams to All Irelands in 03, 05, I think it was. But, you know, when you look at a player like David Clifford, he's a great player. How do you mark him? I think Johnny said, Johnny is he's managing Castleblaney there, and he's very right. There's 2 ways you deal with a guy like David Clifford. The first one is who you mark him. And I don't really care how you mark him. I care about how quick the ball is coming into him and how good the ball is coming into him. And Johnny regularly articulated that you have to stop that at source. It was 40 yards yesterday between, you know, David Clifford, Pádraig O'Hara and other players in the Mayo team. And it's really easy one-on-one when you get, you know, if you pump 6 balls into a guy like him, he's going to get 3 or 4 of them and he's going to score from them. So you have to stop it at source. You can't stop a player like David Clifford. You can't stop a player like Peter Canavan. You can't stop a player like the Gooch. What you have to do is neutralise them. And it's out the field and the work rate and the press. And we've seen that when Tyrone changed Gaelic football in that game against against Kerry in 2003. They suffocated them out the field. The boys inside that we all dreamed about, you know, the Darryl Canadians of this world, or the Mike Frank Russells, they didn't get good ball into them. And it made it easy for the cornerbacks. So for me, that's the only way that you deal with a player like that. And I think Johnny's spot on. You can't leave room like that.
Kev, talking about big players, Killian O'Connor back with Mayo. He looks fit enough, I suppose, but Mayo would really need to get that man back fully fit, because I don't think Ryan O'Donoghue is going to be fit to do it by himself for Mayo by the rest of the year. So it is vital to get COC fit for the championship, Mr. McGurty.
Absolutely. But also, you know, we talked about Jack Carney in recent weeks. We talked about Flynn from the middle of the park scoring. Another big player this year for Mayo, and he was really, really poor last year for me, really disappointed, was Dermot O'Connor. And he started to play well a wee bit in the league this year, but he's really poor in the championship last year for them. So, look, it's not about one man. You know, Calvin maybe dragged Tyrone to the Ireland final in 95, but since then we've really seen that it's about 2, 3, 4 men. You look at Dan's team there. You can mention Dan. You can mention Donegal O'Connor. You know, them guys who turn over the scoreboard all the time. Noel O'Leary always got you a point. Nicholas Murphy from the middle of the park. You know, so you mention any teams that won the All Ireland in modern years. It's not about one man. It's about 2, 3 men sharing that burden. And there's no doubts that Mayo cannot survive with Ryan O'Donoghue just on his own. So Cillian O'Connor will come in. Hopefully he'll be back to his full fitness. He's a phenomenal score getter. He's just a natural score getter, whether it be from play or from frees. Hopefully Dermot O'Connor steps up to the mark as well. And then maybe, as I said to you earlier, that impact sub of Aidan O'Shea coming in could be their big difference.
Mm-hmm. Any more takes on the Division 1 final, lads, or happy enough?
Just one other thing, and I spoke about it. I'd say it was the last time Kerry played Mayo in Tralee. We talked about Mayo wasting ball up front, and they did the exact same thing again yesterday. The amount of times they carry the ball and give it to a man who's not in the scoring zone, and they still take the shot. It's, you know, it's just that we've talked about it. I've definitely talked about it. They need to start learning up front how to be patient, and if that means they keep the ball for a minute to get in the scoring zone, then so be it. But they'll get absolutely crucified against, like they have in the past, against the Kerrys and the Tyrones if they're turning ball over on the attack at pace. And it's something that they really need to learn fast, because it's very hard to win any game when you're losing the ball up front 7 or 8 times in each half and you're wide open at the back. So look, Cillian O'Connor will help that a bit. He'll be a cool header when he gets on the ball and on the loop. But I think this carrying the ball down the middle and just running into trouble and kicking shots when they aren't on, that they really have to start learning. It's an Achilles heel of theirs with the last number of years.
I think that's a really important point, John. Just not to extend this point out, but when how many of the 4 of us have been All Ireland finals, All Ireland semi-finals, even league finals over the last decade, and come out and saying that Mayo didn't pick the right options to score? It's been their constant Achilles heel for 10, 12, 14 years.
Yeah, there we go. That's Division 1 covered. Division 1 final covered yesterday. Good analysis as always, lads. And moving on to Division 2. Roscommon 120, Galway 22 points. A very, very good game here. Roscommon snatched it to death with an absolutely brilliant goal by Jeremy Murtagh. Jeremy Murtagh a couple of years ago questioned his future in the game. He was lying in bed in hospital, thought he was never going to get back. He kicked the winner yesterday, Johnny.
Yeah, and I suppose Dan alluded to there probably the naivety of Mayo. I would have to question that with Galway. How that man got in, it's unexplainable really how he got in. I don't quite know how he got in myself. It was like a jailbreak, but he you're probably looking at it going, and if you're the manager, I know if I was the manager, I would have been squealing, take the point, take the point, take the point. He got in and he went on and he went on, and then what an absolute finish. He absolutely buried it, and you could sense a lot of anger in that, John, in what he done.
The TG Carr commentating was brilliant. Who was on that game, lads? We was watching actually. Was it
Sean Bann? No,
Sean Bann. I think Sean Bann actually he's retired now after this weekend. But the commentator lost his SHIT.
It was absolutely phenomenal.
Greco, yeah.
And there was serious venom. The venom that he put into that ball, it was just absolutely Everton. And it could be something like frustration that you were talking about, or whatever you want to call it. But it was top draw, and that just put the nail in the coffin. Anybody could have won the game. I felt going into the last 10 or 15 minutes, it was right up in the air. But there was some phenomenal score taken. Cox kicked points, the other Murtagh kicked points. you know, there were so many points being kicked, a lot of scores from play. You know, steady free kick as well. But a lot of good scores was taken by both teams, you know, so it was a top draw game. The question probably has to be asked, being realistic, do we see either of these teams making a stab? They are up in the top division next year. Come championship time, are they going to be there or thereabouts for the Connacht Championship after what we've seen looking at Mayo yesterday? It'd be interesting to hear the boys' take on that. You know, for me, Galway still has a couple of big players to come back in. Walsh is a big miss there, you know, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with Shane. But Galway is capable of a big performance. We spoke about this before. They're definitely more consistent this year, John, than what they have been. And we felt that they're a wee bit Jekyll and Hyde. So it'd be interesting to see what happens come championship time.
And I suppose, Johnny, like, who needed this win more for momentum? I know obviously it is great to win a league final, but do you feel it was more important for Roscommon to build momentum, or were Galway probably in a good place going into that game, or like who needed that win more, if you get me?
Well, I think Pádraig would have been in a good enough position coming into the game. Joyce has been around the block, and you know, I think he'd be sort of looking more towards a championship. Like, when you talk about championships in Connacht, you talk about Galway Mayo. That'll be the step that you know he'd be thinking to himself. I don't think PJ will be that annoyed. But I do think Anthony Coynan would have been out for the win, to keep momentum, to get a good thing going into the championship, to try and get on the back of it. You know, so listen, Galway not like to lose it the way they did, but you know, I don't think he'd be losing any sleep over it. It's all about championship from Pádraig Joyce's point of view, I'd imagine. So look, it was a good win for Roscommon, you know, but I think they would have targeted John, to be honest.
And I suppose, Johnny, we keep saying time and time again in this podcast that Roscommon are absolutely blessed with forwards, and last couple of years they probably weren't showcased, but by God, Johnny, the Smiths, the Murtagh, the Coxes of this world, probably some of the best promising forwards we have in this lovely island of ours, Johnny.
Yeah, like that's what we alluded to there when we talk about scores from play. Like, Andy Smith's another man, kick points all day long.
Donny Smith.
Donny as well. You know, there's any amount of these guys in kick scores. You know, they're popping up, and you always will see that with Roscommon. But you know, I wouldn't say it's defence, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. This just sometimes they're coming up short. And in championship, they will be put to the pin or the collar, and we're going to look at it. They're going to be banged there, but they seem to be an up and down team from Division 1 to Division 2. You know, it's getting a bit of consistency there to see if they're at the level. But a phenomenal team when they're on their game, and excellent to watch.
Can't disagree with any of that. And Kev, what about yourself? Roscommon get the win, and this is Stevie Poach's former team, so he was been disappointed looking on.
Yeah, well, I think on the, you know, as you know, I've known Stephen well, but they've been more expansive since Stephen's left. This just you know, no. In fairness,
yeah.
In the way that Stephen sets up his team, it's very good. It's very structured. You know, he has a game plan, and you know that's more than a lot of counties have at the minute. So, look, Matty Ford texted me this afternoon and said, "Make sure you let the bollockses know that we got 4 out of 4." I called him.
Well, no, did he? Did he 4? Yeah.
He did, yeah. We got all 4 right this week. For once, we're right. And
right. Gee, I didn't even. Yeah, okay.
We both called Roscommon last week, and the reason why I'd seen Roscommon against Down, I think Johnny's really articulated, not to prolong the conversation too much. Johnny's really articulated that up front they have a good abundance of riches. You know, they've had the Murtaghs, they've had the Smiths of this world. Conor Cox is certainly stepping up to the mark again this year, which is great to see. The problem maybe for Roscommon over the last number of years has been, and Johnny rightly articulated that as well, was the defence in the middle of the park. I like the way their midfield was moving against Down. Their defence is still an issue. It's leaky. And I wasn't overly enamoured with it again yesterday. You know, at times, if Galway had, as Johnny also said, if they had been a wee bit more thoughtful up front, they possibly could have, you know, untied the Roscommon defence once or twice. But look, I think the job's done for Pádraig Joyce in terms of this year, what he wanted in terms of the league. That's done. Okay, so they're up a league. They have a big game in 3 weeks' time now against Mayo, who are obviously psychologically hurt after their defeat in Croke Park. But it doesn't matter if you want to go into that game or not, wanting to win. When you take in, what was it, 18-point defeat or something like that. So when you take that into a game, you know, it's going to be hurting you.
15.
Yeah, the thing for me at Roscommon is mentally, they have the talent, there's no doubt, but mentally, can they get over the line against Galway or against Mayo? And that's their big challenge. And look, there's the players to prove it. I like the way they're moving. They're a decent physical side, and they've good, decent strength and depth in their panel as well, a bit like Galway. So, you know, Galway were going all out yesterday. Yes, they had one or two players missing. Obviously, Shane Walsh is major to them. But, you know, what was on the table, you know, Roscommon stood up, counted yesterday. And, okay, the goal comes at the end. But, you know, for me, the one good thing about this is that Roscommon will look forward now from it, and they'll take a massive bounce off it. A massive. Whereas Galway, you know, if Galway had won yesterday, it was, you know, come see, come sa. They didn't really care. For Roscommon, it's massive.
And kind of taking up on that point, Dan, what was your kind of thoughts on it? And I did say to Johnny, like, who needed that win more, I suppose, and Roscommon will get great momentum from it. And maybe, as Kev said, Galway's league campaign, that was probably, you know, I'm not maybe overly pushing winning yesterday's game, but your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, I would have thought Galway needed that win. I think Pádraig Joyce is under a lot of pressure, primarily due to the fact that they continue to leak big, heavy scores since he came in. Kevin Walsh knew the problem there and got criticised for being too defensive. But I don't think Pádraig Joyce has managed to find the balance there yet. Like, there's no denying Galway have, I suppose, very good footballers, probably 2 or 3 of the best footballers in the country, but they are extremely leaky still at the back. They lack structure. They lack discipline in their defensive jobs, and it's going to be very hard for them to win very close games if they continue to be this leaky at the back. Roscommon, look, are in a similar vein, albeit I think Anthony Cunningham, it's a bit of a balancing job for him too. He got criticised last year because he was way too defensive, and he was asking his marquee forwards to defend back the pitch, and they had 13 men behind the ball, and that cost them. And look, I still think both teams will need to find a better balance of defence and attack when it comes to championship. There's no denying they all have abundance of forwards, but again, at the back, both sets of teams need to find the balance. I don't know, will this result cost either of them high up or low down? Really, Roscommon are used to jumping up and down the league from Division 1 to Division 2. As I said, I think Joyce probably would have liked to get the win given the bit of pressure he's under. But look, the real fun with these two teams when they all start in 3 weeks' time. And look, I think whoever gets to the final with Roscommon, be it Galway or Mayo, they'll be fully aware of the ambush that Roscommon have done in the past to both of them. And look, I think this kind of championship is a toss of a coin, to be honest.
Absolutely. And obviously, Dan, a quick word on Paul Connery. Great game in Croke Park yesterday, and he's probably been touted as one of the best ball midfielders in Ireland at the minute. So what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's crazy, and at least like, it's, you nearly have to mark him as a centre forward. I don't think, like, a midfielder that when 2 midfielders are left do their job, you can't do that with him. Anywhere from 40 yards off both feet, he's lethal. I think he scored 6 out of 7 yesterday from play. Look, and I suppose that would add to the frustration if you're a Galway supporter. You have your midfielder scoring 6 or 7 points, you've Comer scoring 4 points, and you have 3 or 4 other scorers and you're still not winning the game, and you're only holding Shane Walsh in reserve. So, look, it's there's no doubt in Conroy's. He's has been a great player and has come back from a seriously bad injury. And look, there's obviously a huge amount of resolve there, but I think Galway as a collective need to figure out fairly quickly how to defend as a team, and not have all their eggs in one basket in terms of their attack.
Any more thoughts on yesterday's Division 2 game, lads? Are happy enough?
Well, just probably one other point. Just alluded to Kevin there. Funny, the only difference that I would feel for yesterday, that with Galway and Roscommon, it felt more like a championship game, whereas Kerry and Mayo was just a possession, really. So it's that's a slight worry, Kevin, that I would flag going into, because it's not like previous times, lads. Championship's just around the corner, and if you don't have full panel of players, like you alluded to Killian O'Connor only back, so Mayo was still missing a good few men to come back in there. So potentially you could have one team that's high enough coming in there a wee bit hot, and you've one that hasn't got a chance to get up to full steam. So it will leave it a wee bit interesting, I think.
No. It's a good point, Johnny. And this next 3 weeks is going to be vital for many teams. I mean, Dublin are way into the dark now, and they're gonna probably do 3 weeks of really hard training. We're going to see a different animal altogether. Will Dublin come out of this? What's going to happen in Mayo? Are we going to see different people coming out of Mayo? In terms of Killian O'Connor's back, are we going to see two or three boys? Back in again. So it's going to be totally different on the in 3-4.
Just, Kev, is that my missus or yours, sir?
I think it's Dawn's. She's screaming at me.
Kev, if you could try and get that sorted, please.
It's domestic here, John. It's the manager asked me what happened yesterday,
Is that the game went well then?
So no, I just think that teams on the flip side of this are going to be very different 3-4 weeks down the line. Obviously for Mayo and Galway, it's sort of out of the frying pan into the fire, because they're facing each other in the first round of the championship. But the likes of Dublin, Kerry, with all due respect to Fermanagh, Tyrone, they're going to get a game to sort of bed themselves in the championship. So, for Mayo, I think for Mayo and Galway, this next 3-4 weeks is going to be extremely important.
Crucial, yeah, absolutely.
There we go. And moving on to Saturday's action in the Division 3 final, it was Louth 114, Limerick 12 points, and Johnny, Mickey Hart, he's done his magic once again.
He has. The wee county has done brilliant, and
your former county.
Not my former county at all, but county I was born in, my dad. But anyway, thanks for throwing that in there. But
Kev told me to.
No, look, I doubt if anybody, well, apart from some of the Tyrone lads, but apart from that, I don't think anybody, wouldn't enjoy seeing Louth winning in Croke Park, especially after some of the things that's happened to them over the years up there. So, and obviously with Mickey Hart in there, and you know what, absolutely fair play to him. There's absolutely no doubt about it that a lot of Louth's players on the performances have definitely got a whole lot better. And I suppose a lot of people was looking at this game and going, McRae, what's he going to do? His first time out in Croke Park or whatever in a big game, kick 6 points, probably, I think only maybe got one from play, but it was still kicked a couple of 45s, kicked a few frees. 6 points is not a bad return on a cup comeback down the road. And Louth's going to take a massive amount out of this. Like, Louth up in the Division 2, unbelievable stuff. You know, so I suppose what can you say other than Mickey Hart, a genius performance yet again? It'd be interesting to hear the lads' take on it. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thought it was played well. It was definitely better than the one before. No, but it was a good game. I probably expected more out of Limerick, to be honest. You know, I thought they're a wee bit lackluster. Some very bad mistakes. I actually would have expected them, John, to be a lot more physical, a wee bit more powerful, and some hard running. I do think they have improved. There's no doubt about it, but I don't think their improvement's done. I think they still have a long way to go. Because I do know the resources has been put in. They have a good management team there in place. They're all hard. But you know, Loud was convincing enough in the end, and you know, it'll be just. I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see these teams in Championship as well. And you know, there's guys talking in the WhatsApp group about potential groups down. You know, maybe next year. You know, it's mad to think that these teams are in Division 2. So look at it's good to see. It's fresh. It's new, and I'm enjoying it.
Is Sam McElroy a new player, Johnny?
No, he's not a new player, but
he's McElroy's brother.
I was thinking of the Masters now at the weekend. Actually, I was going for the Masters, but good try, John. Like,
John, you're someone man of a presenter, by in fairness, yeah. Throwing your analysts under the bus.
Oh, wait like get him in the next game, man. Throw him under the bus.
We'll wait for that. We're definitely big time.
Yeah, McElroy or Mulroy, whatever you want to call him, but I tell you, he's kicking points anyway. That is so happy enough.
He can swing the boot, the boy. He can. He can hit a 4-iron, all right. Listen, the one thing I'd say about it is very quickly is I just want people to watch this game for the kick-out strategy. And Mickey Hart sort of rope-a-doped Limerick. If you watch it, they conceded the kick-out, whereas Louth's kick-out was pressed by Limerick. And sort of it was Gavin, Davin and Mickey Hart, old class, where Limerick were getting into that 45, 50-yard option and making the wrong decisions, as Johnny articulated earlier, or Dan did about Mayo. And this is the difference, and this is a real important point. This is the difference between Limerick being Limerick or Limerick being Clare. Because the difference in them being coached is from Division 3 to Division 2. Why are Clare there? Yes, they're good players, but they tend to take a lot of right options. I watched Clare last year against Down, last year, the year before. Take the right options up front. Don't hit silly shots. And, you know, Limerick just to me the other day stunk of a team that didn't take the right options in the last 40 yards of the pitch, of the opposition's forward line. And that was my big issue about them. It was a classic Mickey Hart, Gavin Davin. Sit back, wait for them to come on to you. And when they make the mistake or they make the stupid mistake, punish them. And that axis up front of Byrne at full forward, Sam Mulroy or McElroy, whichever one you want to call him. And and the other guy at 12, I just forgot his name, the guy at 12. Them three moved about. They swapped up from 14 to 12 to 11. So that was absolutely powerful from them. And do you know what? Mickey Hart is going in there. He shows everything about a team. You go in, you build a momentum, you build trust, you build, I suppose, that respect for each other. And their trajectory is absolutely massive. They've won, 6 in a row? Mm-hmm. You know what? They'll be getting into the championship with a massive belief. And if they take a scalp or two this year in the championship, who knows what they're going to do in Division 2? And I mean that the 3 or 4 boys up front can score for them.
And Dan, what about yourself? Loudon, Sam McElroy?
John, you need to go for a show or something. There's a serious problem here. Yeah, look, two boys have hit the nail on the head here. Look, I think the big thing with Division 4 and 3 teams is that if you have a manager that can get a group to commit and who knows what he's about and knows what he wants his team to do, you have a great chance. Clare are the same. Kev's alluded to very good manager, very well drilled as a team, and know their limitations and know what they're good at and stick to it. And look, Loud, basically, once they got ahead in the second half here, you could see what was going to happen. Limerick panicked when chasing the lead, and Down just turned them over and took them on the break every chance they got. No, look, some of the scores Loud got were very impressive as well. Like Kieran Byrne got 1 point there in the second half. I'd say there was nearly like ticky-tacky with Barcelona with a triangle, and he clipped it over at the end. Like, you know, like they're well coached, and look, you could see that they wanted to take the right option the whole time. And Sammy McElroy.
You should play stand in the middle for. He just phoned me. He's tagged me there. Jack a rope. Stand in the middle for Manchester United. Big Sammy. He played in the cup final 85. 4 was sent off. 84 cup final. Tell Johnny I played.
I was about to say that free he took in the second half, he was about 55 yards from off the ground. It was one of the best kicks you'll ever see in Croke Park. It was like Morgan last year. There was an insane kick accuracy and distance, and look, obviously a very talented player. And if you have him and the likes of Kieran Byrne and another couple there, look, and you've a good system and a committed team, do you know what? You're going to be hard to beat at any day.
There we go. Happy days. Now, moving on to Division 4. It was Cavan 210, Tipperary 15 points. Kevin McGurty, what a win for the boys in blue.
I'm glad you came to me first because I wanted the first speaking. I really am. I did want the first speaking this. I watched this specifically because we're coming on the podcast this week. Tipperary were robbed. How they didn't win the game is beyond me. How Cavan actually tried to throw the game away is also beyond me. Again, kick-out strategy really good to watch in that, you know, Tipperary gave up the kick-outs and then invited Cavan onto them. Cavan, you know, you can tell, this will obviously go out to a lot of people, but it'll go out to people in Cavan. What do you call your boy that I texted you about the other day? Greedy bollocks.
Oh, Conor Madden.
He should be actually Cavan time, right? Went through at the end of the game. Greedy didn't give the ball off to somebody else, got blocked down, nearly cost him the match. The guy hits the underside of the bar. Again, from a Cavan perspective, John, it's 4. I think you would agree with me. It's 4 poor enough performances in a row. This game was poor. A lot of the decisions made in the game were very, very poor. And this comes back to the decision making that I was talking to you about that differentiates between a Division 3 team like Limerick and a Division 2 team like Clare. The decision making in this was really, really poor from both teams. And when you look at it, Cavan sort of kept Tipperary in the game in a way, and Tipperary could have stole this game. But you know what? It's job done for both teams, and they're up a league. I have to be honest, I was very critical of Tipperary at the start of the year on this podcast. Really, really critical. They've got themselves together. But, you know, when you're facing into a championship where you're playing, Dan, I'll keep me right here. They play Limerick and Clare, or Clare and Limerick?
They play Waterford, and Limerick and Clare are playing the winners meet in semi. So,
you know, they're a Division 4 team. You know, they're going to be up against it in the semi-final if they beat Waterford, which we all expect them to do. No disrespect to Waterford. So, you know, they've quality up front. You know, Sweeney can swing the boot. We all know that. So, at the end of the day, you know, it's job done for Cavan. Okay, it's nice to get a bit of silverware, but remember, this is not the Polo Grounds in 1953. All animals won, so Cavan people need to get wise about this, you know.
Very positive, Kev. Johnny, what about yourself? Your fellow Ulster team doing well?
Yeah, look at this crawled over the line. I suppose I don't want to be too critical, but you're getting a lot of stick. It's listen. You took the cup off the road. That's the long and short of it. But it's going to be hard for you to say, John, but your own county. But I think it was a very poor performance by both teams. I think
we were just, I just think we were very, as probably as Kev was saying about Conor Madden, like we were just wasteful up front. Shot selection was quite poor. He Grove McKernan, like I did tip him during the week to kind of stand out last week. He didn't really. I just only for Paddy Lynch's bit of cuteness up front, the goals and the frees kind of kept us in it. But yeah, Johnny, just think going forward, we just need to prove big time.
Going forward, but we alluded to there that being wasteful, young Madden wasteful, right? Fair enough. But there was frees being missed 25 yards out straight in front of the goals.
Composure, yeah.
There was a few long range frees missed by the goalkeeper. And we both seen him kick a phenomenal scores in the championship before. But I have to be and this is from a manager's point of view, I'd be looking at the stats of my goalkeeper and say, well, here, hold on a minute. You do have a big boot, and you're kicking 1 out of 5. Maybe do we have to work these short? Maybe you have to get yourself in a better position and play the percentages. And this is the thing about, and I will be honest as well that Kevin, I'll be honest in the fact that sometimes when you're playing at that level, when you're down playing at that level in Division 4, you will get dragged into that sort of football and
lethargic football.
And I do think that didn't help the like of Kevin. I think the likes of Ulster Championship brings out the best in them.
You just thought I'm the only one in this 4 that's played in fucking Division 4. I've been to Waterford on a Saturday evening. Is that what it is?
No. But I knew you would have an insight.
He's an insight to a lot of stuff, that man.
No, it's just really alluding because you're up before me, but it and maybe that was the case, but it wasn't a spectacle. There was unusual tactics. Tipperary has been strange to be honest about it. Sweeney kicked some unbelievable scores. The midfielder kicked absolutely outrageous scores, carrying one leg. So, there was for Tipperary, for me, what Tipperary seemed to be a couple of individuals was stepping up to the plate more so than a team performance, because Cavan were very wasteful in a lot of chances. And I do have to agree with Kevin. He's right. There's been 3 or 4 lackluster performances there in a row, and this will go out to Cavan. People will hear, and I'm saying this. Cavan is an unbelievable footballing county, unbelievable, and they take they're very proud of the football. The great underage teams coming up there for years there, and there's lots of big talent, and I think there's more in Cavan.
Yeah,
but I do maybe think that maybe the whole thing needs freshened up, and that's being honest with you.
What needs freshened up, Johnny? What are we talking?
Johnny,
probably the whole structure.
Right, Dan.
Well, the management team, forwards, what are we talking? Coaching?
Absolutely. Management the other day was an absolute nutter. You could smell it a mile away on Saturday afternoon. Right. Johnny said it. Raymond Gallagher, the goalkeeper, he came up to hit 4 frees in a row, and all 4 of them went the same side of the post. Now, there's no better man on than Dan Goulding to tell us about how to hit a free in Crow Park. But seeming 4 of them are going that way. You need to assess what's happening. You need to understand what's happening. Kick-out strategy was poor. Gerard McKernan didn't get into the game. When they put the big, as I texted into the WhatsApp group, when they put the big unit in full forward, twice they put a ball in there. Twice he won it. The management didn't deal with it. It was as if they were sleeping. I would have, Personally, I would have said, see the big lad coming on, McKernan, get into full back. That's what we own. We own a 3-point lead here. And all of a sudden, he hits the underside of the bar, your man. You know, they were sleeping. They're snoring. You know, and for the last 4 games, sorry, I'm not trying to hog this, but Johnny, you're right. The last 4 games, Calvin have just been snoozing.
Yeah, and you know what, Kevin? Maybe it is because they're down at that level, and they felt that they didn't need to get into top gear.
Yeah.
And who knows? For all we know, Mickey could have them doing real hard training and whatever. Maybe they were leggy, or you know. But it's listen. I'm clutching at straws here. I think it was a very lackluster performance, and if it was 1 out of 5 or 6, John, you'd say to yourself, right, you know, an off day. It's been a right few, and the hill on in the end by the crossbar. Lucky enough, you know. I'm going to be straight. I would be very worried. I'd be very worried going into the championship. I'm telling you, I would be worried. And if it was Cavan fans, I'd be very, very worried if we're going to play Antrim, because Antrim is going to smell blood. They've absolutely nothing to lose, and they've been playing at a tighter level of football right through the league, and that they're going to be well prepared. And after that performance, I think they're going to be better ready for the championship, John. And that's for a team that won an Ulster a couple of years ago. It's a very hard thing to say, but I would be a wee bit fearful. It's a game that's going to go right to the wire, and if I can help it, I'll be making my business to get to it, and that's me straight to you.
Johnny, just before Dan comes in, I'm going to say this, and this is a massive statement. Antrim are going into the match against Cavan for the first time since the early 1980s as favourites in an Ulster Championship game.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so.
That's a massive statement.
Yeah, like there was probably, before I get on to Dan, like there was kind of glimpses of, like, obviously we did overturn a lot of ball. Tomas Gallagher got on a lot of ball. It probably took then we glimpses for the kind of main men to kind of step up and kind of get going, really, and that's probably always been a Cavan wave going on, but we really need to turn them 10-minute cameos into 67-minute cameos. But lots to discuss, but Dan, can you shed any light on it?
To be fair, I think the lads have more than covered. The only thing I'd say, and it's just to kind of to take a holistic view of it, is that these two teams played an All-Ireland semi-final 2 years ago. And to see how bad things have got for both teams in 2 years is pretty frightening. I will say, to be fair with Tip, I think that Tip team was coming to the end of that kind of how would I say, they had a great group there. They had a great group there, and they were coming to the end of the cycle. Yeah, and Quinlivan's gone now, travelling or whatever he's doing, and they have a couple of lads left. Sweeney's kind of carrying the can for them, and they're blooding new fellas. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Cavan. They look like they don't know their roles, or that they don't value the ball. They don't value taking the right option. They don't put enough value in what they're about. Like, they have enough talent to be coasting that Division 4, let's be honest. Well, they should do, but there's something seems to be amiss there, and like, you still have a lot of the players that won you that Ulster title 2 years ago, and I don't know. I think the season could be quite short unless they change tack fairly quickly.
John, can I just say this? There's a fella in Edinburgh who owns a business, and I was chatting to him one day, and he said to me, "The silent pig squeals the least and eats the most." And that's Dan Goulding, because remember when you said to me, "Can I come in?" And I says, I'm glad you asked me first. And Dan just sat back and let me and Johnny rant on, and then he makes the best point.
She's licking some arse like Kev. Oh man, Dan, Jesus, you must feel very complimented tonight, Dan, huh?
10 foot tall.
10 foot tall. Lots of work to do. In fairness, when Ray Gallagher was lifting the trophy on Saturday, he kind of said himself, the work starts from here on in. So Look, there's a big backroom team there. I think Mickey Graham finally has the lads who he wants, so a lot of work to do for the Antrim game, Carrick Park. We will see in a couple of weeks' time. Kev, I believe you had a word to say about your proposal for Congress or structure of the GAA.
Yeah, I don't know what the lads featuring this is, but it's always been my view that, look, we need to take the GAA in the round. You need to understand it as what it is, what it means to people. My structure is very easy in that we have the two leagues as we are. Leagues go up and down, but we have them as championship. So the top 8 in Division 1 and the top 8 in Division 2 would be a round robin competition where they would have 8 at home, 8 away. And that would bring, you know, if you're talking to two lads there at the minute, like Johnny and Dan, you know, Armagh travelling down on a Saturday night to play in Parky Ring or Parky
Fact. Just Parky Ring.
Parky Ring. Sorry, just it's here to be
Or no.
Gee, lads, I tell you what, Dan's on it. Dan's very serious tonight. Jeez, herself was not a cook to favourite dinner for him.
Be going over to Parky Ring and then over to Parky Key, but no.
Ed Sheeran's a night out. Ed Sheeran seems good.
Lads, I was at
Earl Economy as well, and that we get this, but also the GAA needs to look. I'd say it needs to look at what we're doing with our actsides in London and New York. I know Johnny's played for a while for New York, and he loved his time over there. And they're great, passionate Gaels over there. And you know, GAA needs to give something to them as well. So maybe every 5 years we'll take the All Ireland final out of Ireland. We'll bring it somewhere else. In Dubai is the one place I see in the world that we're growing like mad. We're absolutely growing like mad in the Middle East. So, you know, maybe my views are left field, but it's up there for people to discuss, and I would hope that certain county secretaries, county treasurers will start to look at how we can broaden our horizons.
Shawnee, any take on that?
I don't know, bring it to Hamlin Park, maybe, yeah.
You only get 50, maybe at Murrayfield, 67 in Murrayfield.
Oh, no, that'd be no good to GAA. No, I do. I really like the concept. I really like the concept of the round robin, and I don't know about bringing the All Ireland final out of Ireland, but I wouldn't be against it either. I know I don't think it would fly. I think Larry McCarthy would be definitely over the moon with that one and bring it to New York. But
imagine Cork played Kerry, right? Johnny, I'm just saying to Dan Gooley, and this is just up to Dan, right? So yes or no answer. Imagine it was in the MCG in Melbourne, huge Irish community, 80, 90 euro a ticket, 119,000 can fit in that place. Would you buy a ticket to it, Dan?
If I was down there?
No, if you for a one-off trip of a lifetime. If
I had the Bobs, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
If Cav were in the All Ireland final,
to be
won't be 5,000.
Have to say it be empty.
I didn't even have to open my mouth there.
They wouldn't even buy the chips, never mind the ticket. But anyway, no, I do, Kev. I really like the concept of the round robin. You know, and it would have been my thing of it would have been before to do away. I know this wouldn't be popular, but and it's hard for me to say as an Ulster man, but to do away with the provincial championships and to have like a Champions League type structure after your league. You could have seeded teams, and I wouldn't even mind. You could either do a round robin with it or a back door or whatever you wanted, but that you would have teams home and away playing. So if Dublin has to go down to Cork or Dublin has to go to Armagh or wherever it is, well, they're not always playing in Croke Park, you know, or if they have to go down to Leitrim, so be it, you know. And this is the things that we need. And I did like your concept, Kevin, because you're bringing something into the community. You're bringing big games into it. It's good for business. it's good for everywhere else around the country and spreading it out a wee bit and making the GAA the community that it is. And I really like that aspect of it. And I think it'd be something fresh, and it would, you know. And let's be honest, lads. The fight for Sam Maguire in the last umpteen years is going to be a couple of teams, and the rest is only playing for the crack.
I went down to Clarny I went down to Clarny a couple of years ago. The boy in the bottom corner was playing, right? Cork and Kerry for a game. Maybe spent 150, 200 quid at that time for the weekend, right? Just to get down, and then whatever else you're having on beer. What was the point of the match, Cork versus Kerry? A whopping traditional rivalry. Sure, they're both going to get inside Croke Park anyway. As a really wise man said to me, what's the point in the Ulster final? Sure, Tyrone beat Armagh, and Armagh go on and win the All-Ireland. What's the point?
You know, I'm the same as you. You know, I definitely think it needs to go. Like it's way past the sell-by date. Now it'd be interesting to hear Dan's uptake on that, but that's my 2 cents worth anyway.
Yeah, look, I'd agree. I think what the GAA needs and what it should be based on is competition. And at the moment, you have one mini competition within 3 or 4 competitions. The best competition is the National League, and unfortunately, that's the warm-up competition for what's supposed to be the main competition. In the main competition, you have 3 to 4 good games. So, like, very hard to sell your product when that's the case. Like, the amount of dead rubbers, and I know everyone wants a chance to play for an All-Ireland, but unfortunately, like, I think it's dreamland. It's not an option. There's too much of a gulf between all the counties, and the best way I see it below, and in the way our county board now has restructured our championships, you've 12 teams in every grade, and the difference it's made to the club championship and the structure of the leagues is, like, every game is an entertaining close game, or the majority of them, and that's what you want, and that's how you market your games. And in the point in 4 to 5 years' time, instead of having 3 to 4 teams thinking they could win an All-Ireland, you might have 7 or 8, you know, and you could have 7 or 8 winning your Charlton Cup, and so on. But the problem is, at the moment, and you'll see it happen next year now or this year, the Charlton Cup will be a Moria competition because it won't be taken seriously by the GAA. It won't be taken seriously by the media, and that's the problem with it. So anyone who's striving to win that won't feel valued, and that's why the players don't want to go to a split competition. But, like, if right is right, that's what needs to happen. I think every team needs to have a realistic chance of winning their championship every year, or at least have something to aim for.
Don, can I just ask you this question, not to prolong it, John, but if you were okay when back in the day we were all playing maybe Nash or Railway Cup or whatever else, it was trips to Boston and to Paris and whatever else at the time. What about the idea of bringing the All-Ireland overseas?
I think it could be. It's an option, but I think the GAA needs to be in a stronger place first. I think you need to have. It's worth 32 million. Oh, I know that, but the problem is you're taking your marquee game away from Ireland when in fact you only have 2 or 3 other marquee games in the year. If you tend to 15 sellouts in Croke Park because it was do or die the whole time, or sellout somewhere, then that'd be an option. I don't know. Can you take your big game away from Ireland at this point in time? But look, there's no doubting what you're saying is attractive. It is an attractive proposition. Like,
if I own a coffee shop at the corner of Patrick Street in Cork, and I'm going well, and the money's coming in, and I'm thinking about a second one, I do my research, I look at it, and then I invest in that area. If the GAA wants to get bigger, if it commercially wants to get bigger, if it wants to grow with Sky and all its partners, it has to go into Dubai. It has to go into Sydney. Are you telling me is anybody out there who's listening to this podcast tomorrow, whenever else it goes up, that we cannot sell out the Giants Stadium in New York, and we will not sell out the MCG at 119,000. We can.
But there's no doubt about that.
I don't disagree with that.
Let's be realistic. We need to get our house in order at home first.
Mm.
And it's not one bit no other. And you know, like I think it could work. It definitely could work, and you'd sell out the Yankee Stadium, you'd sell out wherever you go. You'd sell out in Australia, Dubai, you'd sell anything out. But you're still papering over the cracks that we have here, and not putting a proper structure in place.
But a huge thing in this, lads, is probably lost. Like, you look at the off-the-ball interviews with the Leinster Council Secretary and the Ulster Council Secretary, and like that's what we're dealing with. I think it was Brian McAvoy and the man from Leinster Council. Like, it's so backwards. It's great ideas, Kev, but unfortunately, you know, that's the cards will be dealt with when it comes to the higher power, Kev.
No, they are backward. We're not backward. That's the problem. It's all about the egg and onion sandwiches and tea and coffee in the boardroom. We're always looking forward. I always want the GAA to jump forward. And my opinion is that we're not backward. The modern era is not backward.
But the people in power are, though.
Well,
and they're the ones who make the call. You see, it's annoying.
How do you sort that out? I'm in Edinburgh, 500 miles from you. Johnny's up in Castleblaney, Cross McGlen direction. Dan's down in East Cork. You know, we can do this. You know, because we're modern people, we can do this because we've bounced into the modern era. The GAA to develop sits there. They've announced today their 5-year plan. And it's absolutely and utterly shocking for a multi-million-pound agency. It's shocking. Their goals are shocking. They don't want to know about the despot around in London. We could sell Wembley Stadium out in the morning. Johnny knows that. Dan knows that. They used to have a Wembley tournament. Why can't we bring our games the way the NFL is bringing the games, the way the NBA is bringing their games? We're not copying them. We're bringing our product to a different store. So, come on.
I think unfortunately, rather short-sighted by the GAA. They have their big sponsors, and their big sponsors are interested in getting their slot in the advertisement window. So the National League needs X amount of time. Your Munster councils need their slice of the cake, and your Ulster councils, and then your big shots need the summer. And they're screwing the inter-county season is for the elitists. It's screwing every club player, and it's not helping a lot of the Division 3 or 4 teams either. And then what you have competitions like the Sigerson, which once was prestigious, is a sideshow. I said to John, I was talking to John today, the Railway Cup is gone. Which was another great competition. The international rules is nearly finished. It's all these things are focusing towards the Super 8s, and that's what it is really, or whatever it was at the time. It's the elitist, the 7 or 8, and the sponsorship and the 5 or 6 games in Croke Park. That's what the inter-county season looks to be to me now.
It's crazy because I was talking to Finian Handy last week, obviously a new member, and he was like,
"It's important."
Important.
I retort to Dan on that. Your view is absolutely fine, brilliant. But when I'm looking at it from a commercial point of view, my first thing is you bring in X amount of pounds for prime time in Ireland or whatever else. This is prime time in the world. I'm bringing Centra to the middle of London if I'm going to Wembley Stadium. Sky Sports are loving me for it. They're not only in Ireland, but they're also now in London. You know, and all this thing, yes, it's commercial, and I hate being commercialised about it. And I don't want the GAA to go professional. But I think the way we're doing things is really amateur. So amateur at the minute. I don't mean amateur in terms of we are an amateur and we always should stay that way, but it's really poor. I think we have another level to go on, and we're not seeing that other level.
Oh, I don't disagree, and I suppose that's what I'm highlighting. I think the way it's the way it's structured at the moment is, instead of promoting competition for the 32 teams that are in it or whatever's in it. They're promoting it for 9 to 10 teams, and it's short-sighted.
Yeah, but Dan, you make a good point about the international rules as well, because Finian Hanley was saying on the podcast last week that, you know, he was proud to be representing Ireland. You were part of that team in 2010. Finian was on it 5 times. He was vice captain one of the years too, Dan. So a competition like that should really be looked into, because it promotes us, it promotes Australia. You know, Johnny, no harm can be even done from that.
No harm, but listen, the international rules, and I'm going to be straight, you know, we had good crack with boys who's on it and played with it, and we know good, you know, friends of ours that has done it, and obviously Dan's been there, you know. But sure, who's going to turn down a trip away to Australia and go on the beer with the boys and have the crack with all the lads all over Ireland? And these guys are athletes and in phenomenal shape, and you know they can do that. They can go and play the game, and then they'll have the crack and enjoy their time away, rightfully so. What Kevin is talking about is a whole different ball game than that. There, it's you know, these guys, and Dan will tell you, you know, they get a push, they get good sponsors, all looked after. They have the few pound to go away. You know, we're talking about amateur players here as well. Don't forget to go away to the other side of the world. You know, yes, it can be done. The sponsors can be got absolutely the same way. I would really like to see a lot more done at home first and get our ducks in a row. But definitely, whatever about the other side of the world, Kevin, definitely London's doable. London's very doable. You know, New York's very doable. We send the team out there anyway for the FPD or whatever it's called now, every year. You know, so it's definitely doable. You know, some teams head out there to play challenge games. You know, we played Mayo a couple of times. We played again Down when I was out there. We played Galway. You know, it's more than doable. You know, but I think being a wee bit realistic about it. I think the old fogies in the GAA, the guys that's coffin dodging at 80 years of age, you know, in back boardrooms. But to be brutally honest, lads, let's call a spade a spade. Who's going to go down to these county board meetings on a Wednesday on a rainy night? Who's going to go to these also council meetings that's on, you know, whatever night during the week it is, and make that trip to, you know, who's going to do it? You know, I think it's all fine and well us saying, you know, but we have to be pragmatic to it and maybe get the likes of Kevin, absolutely brings guys like Kevin and guys like this, and bring them to the table and looking at something collective and trying to put it either through the GPA, if that's the way they have to go about it, and bypassing some of these guys because they're stuck in their own ways.
The last point I'll make, and this just shows you where we are at the moment, even with our 32 million or whatever we're turning over a year, we still can't get a simple fixture right in 2 provinces in the 1 year. And that should be your bread and butter, no matter what stadium you're talking about or anything. It's in this day and age and then to have it drawn into the media and not have it sorted behind closed doors even makes it even look worse. Like, you know, in this day and age, and I think the GAA really needs to get its own house sorted and get a competitive competition where every team feels like they can win something meaningful. I just don't think it's there at the moment.
Dan, have you an axe or anything underneath your hand there? Because you've hit me twice now with it.
No, come here. I'd love to see. What you're saying is
you're 100% right. No,
what you're saying is the dream. Like, God, Jesus, any team that gets an All-Ireland final, they'd love to go out of this country and go and play in a massive stadium, and but the NFL can do that. The NFL are on a light years. They're a different stratosphere to what the GAA is like.
Would people support the All-Ireland final being further seas? Like, is that a day to celebrate being Irish? Is it Croke Park? The feel going up to Croke Park from anywhere where you're coming from? Like, I just think it'd be a bit lost.
John, the simple man to ask is Johnny Murder, and certainly isn't in, maybe I've lived in New York, I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Edinburgh, I've lived in Belfast, I've lived in Dublin, but yes, it is. So, and you wouldn't believe the size of these communities. You wouldn't believe it.
Massive.
Like,
massive communities, Kevin. Massive.
If you go to Allianz Stadium tomorrow morning at €90 or $90 a ticket, you would sell out the Giant Stadium within seconds. Seconds in New York City. Same in Melbourne, 119,000. Right? And it's not a commercial thing. What I'm looking about is, Dan's he's right in what he said, but we need to sort ourselves out at home. But when we look at how we expand our games, we're talking about all these PR issues of, Shifra from West Berlin playing our games, or, my partner's family are from Sri Lanka. There's GAA down there. So they're playing our games. But how do we bring them our games? So it's a massive, massive issue for the GAA that it's going to face in the next 5-6 years. If we stand still, we're going to
Which we will.
We're going to be static.
Which we will.
The National League finals, Kev, could be a medium to start it with.
Well,
yeah, true, Dan.
That's a point, Dan. Like one of my points the other day when I was looking at the live Limerick game and the game that happened before the Cavan game was, obviously every player wants to play in Croke Park. We have all been fortunate enough to play in Croke Park, but realistically, was it decent to have them games in there? When you look at the size of the crowd, it wasn't
Not
great.
For me.
It wasn't a great spectacle for the TV. If I'm a TV operator looking at that, there's 2,000 at that game. It's not great spectacle. Have to sell our games. Remember, when you go back to it, Eric Bristow writes to the guy that owns Darts and Snooker, Barney Hearn. And Barney Hearn says to him, I can't sell darts at the minute because there's too many in the dog going to. Once you all become professional and you stop getting off the beater and off the fags, he says, it's the Sky Sports. And they make a deal with him in 1992. He sells darts to Sky Sports. From this day to that day, Sky Sports has the first person behind darts was Sky Sports because it was a sellable product. Is the GAA a sellable product?
Absolutely.
There you go. Understand your face, understand what you have, and that's my opinion on it. Sorry.
There you go. Dan, last couple of points on this one, lads. Dan, so Park, you're in or nowhere. What's your latest thoughts on that?
Look, it's hard at this stage. You don't know who to believe. Look, in fairness, I think for the Cork players, they're not the most popular team around the county at the moment. They've taken a lot of flack, but I credit them for standing up for what they believe in, and they think the fixture was set there regardless of what the county board have done, and they're standing up for what they believe in. And I think it'll go the same way as it went with Newbridge and Corrigan Park, that they'll be playing in Park Ewing eventually. I think it'll go that way. I think if they'll back the Munster Council into a corner where they won't fulfil the fixture if they have to, and I think it'll be played there. Again, though, the fact that it got to this point is, in
madness.
This day and age, is madness.
And is this all Munster Council, or as Cork County Board got anything to do with this?
Who knows is the honest answer. You just don't know.
Diplomatic
Ed Sheeran.
It's back to the egg and onion sandwiches, isn't it? And cups of tea.
Yeah.
But
Like,
this is. Go ahead.
I was just about to say the piece about Ed Sheeran being in there in April. I don't know, was that agreed before the split season came in or not? And look, there's no denying either. They need every cent they can get to pay for that stadium. That's the issue.
Apparently it was today. I've seen that
Yeah.
come out. Apparently it was today. I'd be very much, my 2 pennies worth is Dan. Dan's a former player. The players aren't allowed to play in their own stadium. Is it up to standard? Absolutely. 14,000 down can fit in there at the minute.
I think so. Look, they played Tip there in a Munster semi-final 3 years ago, just because it's Kerry, it's changing.
Newbridge is, what was it, 11,000, Corrigan Park's 3,000. There's 14,000 can fit inside the stadium. If it's not, it's on TV for 1 year and 1 year only. But the big marker has to be put down. The Cork County Board effed up here. And they need to be told this can't happen again.
But there's just one point I'd like to make, and I was at the Munster final last year. There was 5,000 at it, the Munster final. Now, you're telling me that it can hold 14,000, and there's an issue.
And like, not many, surely if Cork fans had sense that Kerry's going to, like, sorry Dan, but Kerry will win the Munster final this year. Like, let's not beat her in the bush. Like,
yeah, no, agreed. It's if they don't, there's something seriously wrong.
Well,
it's a foregone. It is a foregone conclusion. It's like the Leinster Championship, lads, really. So Cork fan, I don't know what the big commotion really is about, you know.
No, but no, I understand what the commotion's about, and Dan's 100% right. He's represented Cork. Obviously, he's got an All-Ireland medal. The way they've treated these footballers is absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. They had no regard for it. It was all about commercialisation when it started. This wasn't about like Corrigan Park, where, you know, could players walk through the crowd, or was there a safety certificate? They have a 14,000 stadium, but yet the stadium they want their team to play in the marquee game of the year, they just pissed it down the river. I suppose that's the best way to put it. They didn't care about them, and it's atrocious.
But John, I have to say now, like, calling a spade as well. You made a big hubbub a lot of weeks ago about going up to play Antrim, and you says that it wasn't fair on Cavan fans, and you'll be more at it. Like, you know, you can't have it both ways. You know, it has to be, you know, it has to be pragmatic. And also the other point as well is, if I'm a Cork footballer and you're saying it's a foregone conclusion, maybe. But if I'm a Cork footballer and I don't believe that we have a chance of taking Kerry here, because it is Cork and Kerry. If I don't believe that, I should be grabbing my bag and heading the fuck out of that dressing room and not be seen in it again if you don't believe that you're there to win a game or that you can win a game.
Johnny, the tickets were released yesterday for the Cavan Antrim match. They're not sold out yet. Antrim ones have maybe bought 1,000 tickets. Cavan ones are refusing to
go.
Just sort of pat on money and all the way things are.
Oh Lord, we always have to get low.
John, you get the tickets and I'll drive you, right? I'll drive you.
Oh Lordy, we're gonna win anyway. We'll if we're professional enough about it, we'll beat Antrim. Don't you worry, Kev. We'll get over the line against you. Hold me to that.
Like the Rangers man in Ibrox yesterday morning.
Very last thing, lads. People will probably stop watching at this stage. But anyway, Johnny Murder, Rian O'Neill is potentially ruled out for the Donegal clash.
Frustration on this, lads, is actually going through the roof. I don't actually know who's to blame. I wasn't talking to anyone. I have seen that he's picked up a 1-match ban. Donegal kept their mouth shut. They didn't put in an appeal on the 2 suspensions. They went ahead with it. Armagh put in their appeal. The guys are still suspended, and plus a typical egg and onion sandwiches and tea from the lads in the background, and goes, "Oh, you dare question us, do you? Right, there's Rian O'Neill just pick up a suspension." And what's more frustrating for me here is the fact that, one, the game was a complete and utter dead rubber. Like, we can talk about momentum, we can talk about whatever you want, and do you blame the management or do you blame the players in carrying on like that for a dead rubber game at the end, that the game was over? So I'm more I don't know where my frustration is at. you know, I was very confident about Armagh winning Ulster this year. I thought we got ourselves in a good position, a good place, a team that could threaten Ulster. It's going to be extremely daunting to try and go down to Ballybuffet without Rian O'Neill, who's joint captain along with Aidan Nugent. So your captain and vice captain are both suspended. You know, and the other part that I'm annoyed at as well, John, is the fact that the media had blew this up to be, you know, it's never happened in any other game before. We haven't seen anything like this before. What? You know, it seems to be the Northern teams again. They made a big deal out of Tyrone and Armagh. They made a big deal out of Armagh and Donegal. Here Armagh go again. You know, so the frustration levels is through the roof from all angles, whether that be players, management, and from media. It's disgraceful from RTE. You know, the nearly all they showed was a bloody row. They didn't show much of the game. You know, so that tells you all you do need to know about us good Northern teams up here. The old Free Staters, you know, but so that's a story for another day.
Johnny, I said it last week, the Free Staters laughing here down the bottom screen, right? It's not fair. It was an absolute another disgrace the way Kevin McStay got on and the way that we didn't get on. It was all about, they had a camera at the match to watch boxing, but they wouldn't show us any of the game, you know? So, look, in fairness, one has to understand this, or has to come to terms with this. Rian O'Neill, right, the one that I thought would have been banned straight off. When you look at it, looks as if he eye gouges or gets involved with a guy. And then the bans were announced, and he wasn't anywhere near it. And I couldn't believe it, actually, to be honest with you. So how come the retrospectively 3 days later they didn't ban him? We need an explanation about this. We need to understand, was he in the referee's report? Was he not? And we're getting nothing. We're getting silence. Again, egg and onion sandwiches and tea slurpers.
There we go. There we go. Lads, that was an absolute pleasure. Lots to divulge in that one. Great debate. Great opinion.
He wanted to come in there. He wanted to come in because we were calling him a free stater.
I think we pressed a few of Dan's buttons tonight, so we'll
not to talk. I would just think, unfortunately, in this day and age, you can't raise your hands, and the way the media is gone, the way the media is controlled by various segments of the GAA community, you at any point in time are subject to getting done if you raise your hands, unfortunately, and that's the way it's gone. And as you said, Johnny, it was a nothing game, and that's the pity about it, really. You know, you said it was a game.
Yeah, you're right, Dan.
Yeah, you know, that's the pity about it, really. And like Rian O'Neill knows, going to be obviously a huge loss, and I suppose at the same time it's probably on the players at the end of the day, because what happens out of that, like, it's happening wholesale now, and there's different teams getting targeted and getting done, and it's par for the course now. And yeah, look, tis no coincidence when the Dubs were at their best, they kept things fairly level, and the minute the discipline started going in them, they started getting caught themselves. You know, it's unfortunately the way the game has gone. It's you have to be the fist down, or anything sneaky, or anything that's not in the rule book. You're going to be under pressure, unfortunately, even if it's like even the hullabaloo made in Tyrone about what's his name knocking over the Dub. My head's gone.
Yeah, on the tarmac or on the concrete.
Yeah. Sure, that took 5 minutes of the Sunday game. Yeah. That's the way it's gone. That's the way it's gone. It's media driven, and Costello, and Hamsey, was it? Was it Hamsey?
Yes, Hamsey pushed Costello over. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the analysis. That's what we keep talking about. The media. It's bring Joe Bradley back to RTE.
But before we go tonight, lads, there's I just want to make you aware of a fundraiser for John and his family. They obviously travelled down to Croke Park to watch Cavan this weekend, and cost them food and beer, and obviously
Didn't have any clothes for the day too, so he borrowed a Kerry fella's jersey then.
we're walking Cook Patrick next Saturday for them.
You'll be walking. You have a bit of a belly on you, Kev. You may get rid of it. I cannot wait for Carrigan Park, my friend. I cannot wait for Carrigan Park. We'll be rejoicing at the right, lads. We'll wrap this up before there's boxing gloves put on. Lads, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by orgaretch.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code JMAC podcast to get 15% off on orgaretch.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. And if you're liking what you're seeing, like, subscribe to YouTube. Support's been absolutely brilliant so far. Daniel, Johnny, Kevin, thank you very, very much, my men.
Nice.
Longest bonnet.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.